Hello everybody and welcome back. I hope you've all had a lovely festive season. I have an account for you today and it comes from Carmyllie in Scotland, and it's a Bigfoot creature that's been seen for the third time now, and footprints in the snow. And this account came into me by email, and the witness kindly allowed me to share it here with you all. As regular visitors here will no doubt already know, there are a number of strange accounts up at Carmyllie in Angus on the northwest coast of Scotland. The lady who had these encounters is a well-known Scottish female researcher by the name of Carmyllie Fraser. And Carmyllie was one of the first people I was able to talk to who had an experiences with these wonderful beings as a child. And it was very validating for me as we matched each other word for word and sentence for sentence as we chatted. And we also had all of the same questions. So you can imagine my delight when earlier this year another witness came forward from the same area as Carmyllie, and I managed to pass on the details, and she was delighted to finally have some validation. But this account I feel is very important in not only validating Carmyllie's earlier accounts, it's also very rare for a creature to be seen in the vicinity of a footprint or a succession of footprints. And normally they're viewed very few and far between and rarely together. And even rarer still, this is a winter account. And as we turn to the cold season ourselves, the sightings seem to die off. Now I'm unsure if that's because we are out less or that they go somewhere else entirely in the winter months. And very early this year, Steve Hebican had some very good results at Cannock Chase in the snow, but sadly no creature was sighted. So I thought, as this season comes around again, I can bring you some of the very rare winter sighting accounts. And as we know, we all hope to find a footprint, don't we? And so I would imagine that the winter months, when there's snow around, is the ideal time for that. Now, when I remember Carmyllie telling me in depth about her account, and I'll run over it a little bit for the people who haven't heard it. She was about 8 or 9 years old, and in Carmyllie, it's very much, I would imagine, like Washington State or Oregon. It's a very forested area, and it's used for logging. There are a lot of family farms up there and single homes with very long drives down the road between them. So a number of residences would share a same amount of mailbox at the long of probably about a 2-mile drive at the bottom. And I'm sure many of the Americans will understand what I mean when I say that. As Carmyllie's walking to get a paper, she's probably walking about 2 miles away from the actual house just to get to these to the boxes, and she's going down a farm path. And she says the dog reacted first. The dog saw whatever was there, and she kind of ignored the dog and carried on running past it. And at which point she saw an incredibly tall tree. It was about 8 feet tall. It was covered in brown hair, and it was holding on to the branch of a tree, as if it was examining the tree in some way. I mean, I would theorise it was looking for new buds, which would be packed with vitamin C very early spring, and which still be very deep winter conditions up at Carmyllie. It's not that far from the Scottish Highlands, and there are around 12 or 13 accounts up there now if you enclose Angus, which is the county that it's in. So I'll get back to it. So it was the winter of 2012 when it happened to this witness. Carmyllie had a secondary sighting when she was in the car with some adults driving, and she saw it at night time, so it was under a different set of circumstances. It seemed to have a glow to its eye, and she said it looked like a human-shaped figure, but much bigger, further down this road, but at night, as we said. And then there was another occasion when they were picking wild fruit, and there was a howl from the valley that each of the adults actually noted was strange and they'd never heard before. And around that area there's a quarry, and it's I always say Carmyllie, but it's Carmyllie Quarry. And I don't think it's quarried anymore, it's very old and overgrown. And that's very close to Carmyllie and where this account happened. And the witness said it was the winter of 2012 or 2013, which, if you recall, was very intense. In Carmyllie, the snow was a foot deep on the flat ground and many feet deep in the snowdrifts. I was walking the family dog down a dirt track that provided access to a stretch of farm plots. It stretches between the main road through the area and a wooded area further on that stretches further south. About a little further than halfway down the road, I saw what appeared to be an extremely large footprint in the snow. It was slightly softened by snowfall, but it was clear enough to make out that it was a bare foot shape rather than a shoe or a boot-shaped footprint. It was maybe 1.5 times the length of my boot, and this made it, in my judgment, a little longer than 1.5 foot long. Judging by the way it was orientated, it seemed that whatever left it was walking from the field on one side to the field on the other. And it looked like whoever had left the print was cutting across the road sideways. Now, considering that road was at that point maybe 4 foot across due to the snowdrift, and there was only one footprint on it, the creature that left it must have been quite large. I tried to see if there were any more footprints around, but I couldn't find any. I think this might have been because the snow that would normally fall on the footprint was being blown into the drifts either side of the path. So this print was slightly more protected as it was being snowed out less than the other footprints that were around. And it does seem to remain clear, while the others were maybe hidden by the fallen snow, as mine were being. As strange as this was, I deemed it was probably nothing to worry about. It could have been caused by any number of things, so I left it and continued on. Once I reached the wooded area at the end of the road, that's when the scenario became very intense. For detail, the area also has a lot of low, scrubby bushes. And with the snow, these bushes could be about 5 feet tall, coming up to my neck. And once me and the dog got to the wooded area, the dog reacted. She seemed to have seen something before I did, and she began barking and lunging, similar to the other Carmyllie report. Before I saw the creature, I heard it. A sort of deep, long ooh sound, which caused the dog to stop barking and start squeaking and whining in fright. Finally, just before I was about to turn and leave for the sake of the dog, and frankly for my own sake, I witnessed this great big creature rise from behind one of the bushes. It stood easily 3 heads over the top of the bush and seemed disproportionately wide at the shoulders and neck, and was almost black in colour. The snow also seemed to glint up its eyes, making them pop out at me slightly more, say, than a regular human's would. While the visibility was slightly damaged by the snow, this creature was only maybe 5 metres in front of me, and it still dwarfed me. It was at this point that the dog took off, and I took off after it, and I didn't look back. Since then, I have tentatively returned to the road, but I haven't seen any trace of the creature. I generally don't buy into these sort of things, but I suppose something like this needs to happen once to convince you. Regardless, I've never told this story, and I am only now revealing it due to my discovery of the other stories at Carmyllie. Perhaps there is something in this area that we haven't discovered yet. Well, I would think that there is. I mean, I have no doubt there's something running around up there. But, as I say, I wanted to bring you a number of reports that were around this time of year, or winter time at least, and they're very few and far between. It's rather hard to find Bigfoot accounts, shall we say. So I've got one from 2010, and it's the Medway footprints, and the Medway is down in the southeast of England. And the witness there said, so here goes, some 5 winters ago, so it would have been about 2005, I was out walking my dog before work, and it was about 5:45 a.m. I took her our usual route, which takes in a large field on the edge of a massive urban development and countryside for several miles, next to a moderate-sized wood above the River Medway. It had been snowing heavily the night, and it was well below freezing. It was dark still, it being December and all. We came to the field we usually circuit, which, as you can see, is hemmed in by a large housing estate. And I got about halfway round when I saw in a torchlight coming from my right a set of footprints in the snow that looked like bare feet. The snow was still virgin, apart from the usual rabbit and fox tracks. The footprints continued across the field from right to left. Now my dog was snuffling them and showing an unusual interest, and was casting about and going a little bit mental. The really strange bit is that the footprints started on the edge of a massive barricade of bramble, and no sign of any pathways apart from a small fox or a rabbit run. No snow looked to have been knocked off the top of the bramble thicket, and no other human footprints save mine were out there. I followed these very clear trail across the width of the field. Now I'm 6'5", and I have size 13 feet. And these prints looked a little bigger than mine, so say 13 and a half, 14. And I tried to copy the stride, which was equal roughly to my own. They were broader and very deep, but obviously barefoot, with the toes being quite obvious. They then went down the snow-covered rubble slope that is an entrance to Baidu Woods. And my dog was still acting very excitable and following a scent she found different. I took stock and followed the trail about 20 feet into the wood, where it became impossible to find any more. Now the problem I have is the size and stride of those footsteps are clearly within human range. So it would be tall like me, but not outlandishly tall. And why would someone try walking across a field, barefooted, in the snow, just to leave a trail of prints leading up to a set of tracks? It just doesn't make sense. Like I said, it's an impenetrable barrier of thorns and brambles backing onto a housing estate. Who in their right mind would do that in the middle of winter? And if you remember, this account is from 1995, and back then there were no reports out there in the general vicinity of Bigfoots or wild men or anything else, and this was reported to a paranormal group, these footprints. But we've got what they're describing as a set of footprints that run from a bramble bush across the field, up an embankment and over to a set of tracks in the middle of December in the Medway. So the trail started from the right of the copse in the middle where we live and skirted around it into the woods on the left. Like I said, they just sort of started on the edge with no sign of disturbance around, which is just incredible, isn't it? Because you would expect if that was going to happen, it would be in the wilds of somewhere, not very close to a housing estate. But it did, and it was reported, and that's how we report it to you. The next account is when people will say, well, you know, if they're there, they're only in the wilderness areas. Well, this account comes from the wilderness areas. And it's the footsteps that followed me through the snow on the Larrig. And the Larrig is part of Ben McDhu. So Alistair Borthwick, who's a very well-known mountaineer, recounted an experience of one of his fellow climbers up on the Larrig. The climber was alone, he said, heading over McDhu, heading for the shelter at the Corrie Boffer, on a night when the snow had a hard, crisp crust, through which his boots broke at every step. He reached the summit, and it was while he was descending the slopes which fall below the Larrig that he heard footsteps behind him. Footsteps not in rhythm of his own, but occurring only once for every 3 steps that he took. He said, I felt a queer crinkling feeling in the back of my neck. But I said to myself, this is silly, there must be a reason for it. So I stopped and got myself together, and the footsteps stopped. And as I sat down and tried to reason it out, I could see nothing. There was a moon about somewhere, but the mist was fairly thick. The only thing I could make out of it was that when my boots broke through the snow crust, they did make some sort of echo. But then every step should have echoed, and not just this regular 1 in 3. I was scared stiff. I got up and I walked on, trying hard not to look behind me. I got down all right, and the footsteps stopped about 1,000 feet above the Larrig, and I didn't run. But if anything had so much as said boo behind me, I'd have been down to the corral like a streak of lightning. Now, much closer, more up to date, is in 2015, and this is in Nottingham, and it's a reddish-brown creature that was seen in Cockgrove. And the account was forwarded to me by Thomas Markham, and he's a well-known researcher. He has a blog called The Crypto Crew in the United States, and he's a long-time friend of mine. And he sent this sighting account to me on the day he received it, and I was very grateful that he did. And it says, the county is Nottinghamshire, and it was the 27th of December 2015. So time of day was 1 a.m. Nottingham, length of sighting was 3 seconds, and 5 people witnessed this. And it says, I was driving home, going along the Old Thought Road from a Christmas party, and was heading towards the A46. I was approaching a corner, the one just behind the Eaton Park nursing home, when the headlights of my car highlighted something stood in a lay-by. It was about 6 feet tall and covered in reddy brown hair. My whole family saw it. It had dark eyes and a human face. I don't want any help, but I felt I would share what we saw in case there was a large cat on the loose. A large upright cat is the only thing I can think of to explain what we saw. My son says it was not a cat, but a monster. Now this next account I have for you is from Compton, Compton Woodbirks. And this happened in January 2016. And I know that you haven't heard this account before because I've never put it out there. And it came into me by a gentleman, and we've chatted ever since, and we've kept in touch and chatted ever since. And he did show me some strange photographs from the area, very orangey looking, kind of orangutan looking colour that we see. And he was happy for me to name him as Phil, but that was the only details he wanted to give. And he says, I was out today in the car on a normal everyday trip. I still had my work gear on. I had the dog with me, and it was cold and windy, but it was a really nice day. So I figured a walk in the woods would do us both a world of good. So we set off on a short 2-mile ride. I pulled up in the car and went to get the dog out, and she refused. She's never done this before, and it seemed strange. But I just thought, sod it, to be honest. I had my model rock crawler truck in the car, and I decided just to spend some time using it in the hopes that she'd change her mind and we'd get a walk in. Now, the woods is split by a country road with an offshoot that is sided by high, steep banks. And I usually go on one side of it, but this time I decided to go in the opposite direction for some reason. I was running the truck up and down and generally having fun for about 10 minutes, still in my Ibis jacket. And I had my cap on, and the truck's whirring and making a racket, so I wasn't, incognito. I kept my earphones in, and I just decided to stay out for 20 minutes or so and unwind. Then I heard the strangest noise. Well, noises really, loud enough that I could still hear them with the earphones on. So I took the headphones out, and I'm thinking it's wind because I'm hearing cracking and wood cracking. And I presume it was a tree breaking in the wind. But it just kept happening. Crack and crack and crush and crack. So I'm starting to become confused at this point. Is it deadfall? Do I need to get out of it? Is it this from the wind? Why is it happening over and over? I just couldn't make it out. I realised it was coming from the other bank, along the new cut for the power lines. So the path underneath them was well cut back, and only a few trees had been removed in the area I was in. So I thought it might be workers or something, but then it stopped. So I just carried on. I'm just about to put my earphones back in, and I hear a really strange sound. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but it almost sounded like something letting out wind, but much, much louder and up above me. And really so loud, I thought it was an engine or something above me. And I ducked and looked up, and I have no idea what it was at all. So I decided to start back towards the car. I'm getting quite spooked at this point. So I start heading downhill. I'm running the truck up and down as I'm going, and I catch a movement in the corner of my eye, and it made me look up. And I saw something dark about halfway the height of the tree trunk move back quickly behind the tree. It was a pine tree that had been coppiced or damaged as its trunk had been split into 3 parts. And it was really quick. The movement was really quick. But I could make out a head, an arm and a leg. All black, not shiny or anything, just matte black, and it moved really fast. I was so shocked, I just stood there for what felt like 20 minutes, frozen. It wasn't 20 minutes, but it felt like that. I was scared, rigid, but unable to move. I couldn't take my eyes off that trunk. I thought something unhuman was going to come out from behind it. I just stood there. I don't think I even blinked. Eventually, I realised I had to go and look or run. I don't know how I did it, but I looked around and I found a large, thick stick and took it with me. I was so scared, I dropped the truck remote on the ground without realising. And now I carried this stick and circled the trees, and there was nothing there. Nothing. And then I realised he, or it, could have walked backwards into the trees without me even seeing him from where I was stood. I've been out 1,000,000 times, and today changed everything for me. Whatever I saw was not human. It wasn't huge. I guessed my height, maybe 5'8", but it moved so fast, so swiftly, and then it was gone. The ground had heavy leaf cover, so I couldn't see anything had been walking through there. But I will never go into the woods again without keeping my eyes out for anything like that. I did notice the area had some sticks, and I photographed them as they seemed so out of place. Now, I've added those photographs. There's a link below in the video and you can see them. And he gave me a couple of photographs of the area as well. So, if you're out this weekend or over the Christmas period and you're lucky enough to get any snow, keep your eye out for the odd print or the odd creature. And if you see one, get in touch and let me know. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas and I hope you enjoyed that upload. So until next time, everybody, thank you very much. Good night.